want to get started with you and your background and how your love of music came to be. And we're going to just go through your story into where we're at today in the future.
Most definitely.
So,
My name is CunaBear. It's CunaBear. I am a little bit of a jack of all trades. Like, primarily, I'm a rapper and a producer and an illustrator. I do a little bit of graphic design work on the side. But I've been in punk bands and metal bands and funk bands. I've played guitar and drums, bass. I've done singing and screaming. I try to incorporate all those types of things into my rap music and try to give it like a jazzy boom bap flavor uh, on the side. And so I try to like blend all these things and make it psychedelic and funky and fun and interesting and try to collaborate with as many cool people as I'm able to. I got started in Richmond, Virginia, and moved from Richmond, Virginia to Savannah, Georgia. And I was in Savannah, Georgia for like about 10 years. And I just recently relocated again to upstate New York.
okay.
Um, and I kind of just dabble. I like to make my own cassette tapes. I like to make my own t-shirts and my own merch, or collaborate with people if I'm able to in order to make cool stuff happen. I've been able to do some murals in the past. I've been able to design merch for local groups and bands and brands that I've really been able to level with, not just financially, but also artistically. Been able to play some festivals and get on stage with some pretty cool people. I've done a lot of DIY touring over the last 10 years. I think I've been on 9 tours total. Um, it's been a good time. And I have a art and music collective that I'm a part of slash running called the Beartooth Collective. We try to dabble in anything, trying to help people get shows, flyers, figuring out how to book their own stuff, figuring out how to make their own merch, like trying to give people a foundation and a community that they can use to help uplift themselves, to help figure out like where they might fit within their own scene. Anything that we can do to assist people. There's specific artists that are in it, and then there's people who just are like friends and family and people who associate with us, and we kind of just network with anybody and everybody and try to keep in touch with folks and spread the love and spread the music, you know?
Absolutely. That's the whole goal.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been doing that I've been doing Beartooth Collective since 2010 and CunaBear since 2014. And I'm currently still doing it, making ways to find new avenues to push while also, living life, trying to figure out the day to day.
Yeah, that's all we can do.
Yeah, man. I keep it as simple as I can.
So I got a few questions out of that. One, what part of upstate?
I'm currently in Elmira.
Okay.
It's like 2 hours ish away from most of the major cities in upstate New York.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quiet, but it also there's like an underside to the city because you can tell that historically it used to be a lot more bustling than it is now.
Yeah.
It's a lot more quiet and suburban out here. And it's new for me in a lot of ways just because the furthest north I lived was Northern Virginia, which is like similar in climate but different in energy. And proximity to Canada and also proximity to the city means that there's a whole lot of transient energy going on. There's literally a train in our backyard. that's constantly running. And but it's also really inspiring. Like, I'm a graffiti head, so there's a lot of graffiti that runs around the town. It's just different. I spent a long time on a tropical island off the coast of Georgia. So now I'm up in the mountains again. And it's a different kind of fresh. The mornings are crisper.
Right.
I feel like I have a more clear head. There's a lot more fog and haze that came with living in the heat, like living constantly in like 100+ degree weather. It's
Humid
like,
weather.
yeah, humid weather too. Yeah. It's a different type of environment, but I've been finding good energy out of it and good inspiration from it, so I can't really complain.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm a long time resident of Las Vegas, and I left Halloween of 2023 and went to Pensacola, Florida for 8 months, and it
Ooh,
didn't work out at all. But
I feel you.
from there, I went up to Topeka, Kansas. That's where I'm at right now, and I'm getting ready to move to Kansas City.
Nice.
And all three have completely different energies, and obviously
Yeah,
weather and
yo.
everything else, and the people are different in all three places. And I've done a lot of moving in general. Like I lived in Buffalo for 6 months, so that's why I asked about upstate because I've
Oh yeah, that's what's up. I got some homies out in Buffalo.
yeah, I like Buffalo. If it wasn't for the winter, I'd probably would have stayed there for a while. But uh, it's
Yeah, I
we'll
feel you,
enjoy it.
yo. The trails up here are beautiful though. It's definitely a give and take. Like, we don't plan on staying up here long term. So there's going to be a point where I'm gonna have to end up moving again. And when I do, I'm definitely gonna miss the deciduous trees. I'm gonna miss having like a proper autumn season.
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna miss
that
that.
that was the thing, and like because I lived in Vegas for so long, it's the desert. There's not any real grass. I love palm trees. It's weird not being around palm trees, but overall, like there's not a lot of trees. There's not a lot of grass. There's no water, and in the
Right.
wild, you miss that stuff. You miss nature like that, and so it's nice to have grass. Like I've got a yard, and it's like hell
Oh
yeah.
my God.
What's it like to have a yard again before it was just rocks? So
Yeah.
it's
Real deal. That's very real. That makes me think about my first tour. Shout out to my homegirl, Lady Valor. She took me on my first tour. She was like, "Yo, I got some homies in different states across the country who I want to visit." They're just like her college friends. And she was like, "But I'm gonna book some shows along the way. Do you want to ride with me?" I was like, "Hell yeah! If you book the shows, I'll drive the whole way." So I'm I'm driving, and it's like 10-hour days driving from city to city
mhm.
because we're taking the long, low road into Texas and then cutting halfway through Texas, which is the worst way
Man,
to
Texas is the
drive through
longest state
Texas,
ever.
period. Yeah, that was the worst way to do that shit in hindsight. But at the time, we were like, fuck it. Like, there's shows to be played. Let's get after it, you
Mhm.
know? And we made it to Taos, New Mexico, and I blacked out. I blacked out after we parked the whip and pulled up to a little eatery spot. I remember sitting down at this table, totally blacked out. I woke up like 2 hours later, and they were just feeding me water as much as possible, and it was crazy. But yeah, I feel that going out into the desert, or really any difference in climate to that degree, where it's like, oh, I'm in a foreign experience from whatever my normal is, and being there for any extended period of time and then coming home, it's like, it's such a refresher. It really makes you not take for granted your environment.
Right.
It's like, oh wait, this is actually not that bad.
So some other questions out of what you were talking about earlier is your background in playing in punk and metal bands and playing instruments and all that. So how did that start? When did you start playing instruments?
um, started with I started with trombone in like elementary school because I went to an elementary school that was fortunate enough to have some rental instruments, and there weren't a lot, but there was like, hey, everyone's going to try out for each thing, and then you're going to cast a vote for what you want. And depending on how well you did on that instrument versus other kids will determine how we can divvy up which instrument. And I ended up getting stuck with the trombone. And at first, I really loved it. I kind of grew out of it once I hit middle school. Um, and once I hit middle school, I started hearing ska. Because, like, so I grew up in a household where I had a mixed race household. My dad is from Pakistan. So he's listening to a lot of traditional Indian music. And my mom is a Southern black woman from Birmingham, Alabama. So she's listening to a lot of gospel and soul and R&B and stuff. And I love to joke that like my family is a family full of rebels because we tend to go against whatever people would consider the norm for us to be. And so my parents were both rebels in their own way, and then they rose me, and I was immediately like, I do not like the music y'all like. I need something different from this. And I cannot tell you what happened. At some point, I heard something on the radio that was relatively punk or grunge adjacent. And I was like, this is tuning into something else. And then my parents were like, turn this off. And I was like, oh no, I gotta get into this. And I found myself playing guitar around like 13. Um, and when I was in middle school, two of my best friends at the time were also guitarists, and they were also into different genres of rock. So like I had one dude who was into like classic rock and hair metal and 80s rock, and another dude who was into death metal and grunge and new metal and shit. And so it was like I'm just taking all of these different influences in. Um, and I was the one who was into punk and pop punk and jazz and funk and like reggae a little bit. So I'm trying to blend all of these different styles together, and we're all playing in these like bands when you're in middle school and you don't really have ways to even like get to each other's houses and to actually practice and shit like that, but you want to say you're in a band. We had a lot of that until, we were able to drive. Then we were starting to just like develop our own sounds and figure out what was working for us and what wasn't. And there were a lot of metal bands when I was in high school that were just local to the area. And there was a pretty heavy hardcore scene. So, plus we lived near DC. So, like Bad Brains and everything that was coming from DC and Richmond heavy was just deeply influencing every part of my neighborhood and every part of the kids that were around. Um, so it was kind of just like a rite of passage. Like, yeah, you would pick up one of these instruments eventually and learn, like you would join one of your friends' bands eventually.
Right.
We were covering A Day to Remember and shit at the end of all of our sets, and it was always a fun time. And it was just a thing that was like foundational types of memories for me. Going to Vans Warped Tour and stuff like that was such a big deal. Um, Hip hop and R&B and things like that were also around. There was just a switch that flipped when I was like almost 20 years old, where I was like, actually, this is equally as interesting to me for reasons that are more deeply in tune with who I think I really am. Um, I felt like part of my struggle was just growing up in a town where like everybody wanted to get out and do their own thing, and it was difficult to keep groups of people together long enough to even keep the bands tight. Everybody kind of wanted to spread far, so it was hard to keep members around. And so that led me to doing a lot of solo stuff. That was part of it. And then the other part of it was just like I said, I had found a new connection to hip hop and R&B and jazz that really spoke to me on an internal way that I couldn't really facilitate out of metal and punk in those same way. And once I figured that out, it was more of like, how do I meld what I'm already working on and the types of music that I already like into this other new idea of music that I'm also interested in. And somewhere along the line, I kind of came up with where I'm at. I think I have a pretty decent blend of like singing and screaming and rapping and doing interesting musical element related things, percussion, doing a lot of production that tends to move and stay stagnant less. I find that that's a little bit more appealing to me because I love that aspect of progressive bands and progressive metal bands where it's like the song is just constantly on a journey in and of itself. And then the lyrics are, telling their own story or taking you to such and such place. I've always found those types of elements interesting in music. Um, and I really pulled on that heavy from like listening to the Mars Volta super young and listening to lots of like post-hardcore bands when I was in high school. All those types of things really influenced me heavy and put me in a place of like, I want to be experimental to a point with the way that I approach hip hop. So that's a lot of how that influences have played into where I'm at now.
I love it. That's uh, that's the way music should be. I think
Yeah.
when you stick to just one thing, I mean, obviously there's artists that are fantastic at doing just one thing, and that's great. But just in general, like I feel like when you limit yourself to one style, and not just as a musician, but as a music listener, like when you just listen to one thing, there's so much music out there. You're talking hundreds of years of music that you are potentially not enjoying because you're just like, this. Like, no, why?
Yeah.
You know?
It's crazy, yo. I remember there's this moment in particular being a guitarist where I was trying to learn this song from this metal band. Shout out Protest the Hero. They're one of my favorite they're one of my favorite metal bands. I'm trying to learn this one song and I'm watching this dude who's playing a cover of it on YouTube. And I'm like trying to watch him and figure out what he's doing. And I'm watching the video over and over and over again. So I start reading through the comment sections and stuff. And there's this comment, someone was like, dude, how do you learn all of this stuff and not get bored with Met? Like, you've done so many covers of so many different bands. Is there a point where it like kind of all blurs together? And he's like, dude, I listen to everything. I play along to everything. And I don't know what in particular he meant by everything in that comment, as like, looking at it from the parasocial side, but like it clicked with me immediately. I was like, there's not really any reason to limit myself to just one thing. And if I like try some shit and I fail at it, or I try something and it's not for me, it's one thing. Um, or if I find that like I'm not good at blending it in a way that appeals to me, because it has to be appealing to me first. I can't make the music from the perspective of like, I gotta make, such and such person happy. Like, I have to make sure I enjoy it first. So if I'm not enjoying the experiment, then I might put it down or try a different way. But like, I don't want to stay in any lane. I don't want to stay boxed into anything. I know that rap and hip hop are lanes that I have deep respect for and deep appreciation for. And I don't really see myself veering away from that. But at the same time, I see so many different ways that I can experiment with that genre. And the genre itself is still so young and is still exploring so many new avenues. There are so many rappers today that are talking about things that rappers used to never be able to feel like they could ever be comfortable talking about, whether they were, a woman, whether they were queer, whether they're just having an experience and trying to put it to words in a way that they feel like they need to because someone else hasn't done it for them or in a way that they think that is, impressionable upon people, that could benefit them, that could, change the way they perceive something or change their attitude about something. Like, it's beautiful how just words can do so much, and how we've been able to find these new niches as people over time to manipulate words in ways that really mean something deep to the soul and to the spirit. That's something so special to me. And I think that that's like part of also what makes me so proud of being a rapper and an MC, is the school of thought that comes to like, you have to be unique. And I know that that's kind of like an old head take. I know it's a little bit more of like a old school way of looking at it these days, but like, I think that that's a driving force for that same continuation. It's like, if you choose that avenue and you choose consciously to be like, I'm going to choose to say something in a special way, I don't really know. There are very few exceptions to the rule where I think that you can go wrong with that.
Hmm.
People need that expression. And I've been blessed to find it in my own little niche, my own little corner.
I like I like that you said it's an old head kind of way, but it's look. There's a reason why things were that way to begin with. You know,
You know,
it's
I
important to
agree.
stand out and be unique and be original. And every musician ever has had influences of some sort. Even if they were the first of their kind, there was still something that influenced them to become that person. So
Absolutely.
you got to be original to some degree. And there's been not a lot of that the last really 25 years in general across music in general. And when something stands out, it stands out pretty quickly because you're like, hey, I never heard that before, you know, and
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
that's a good thing to have a foundation on. So you've got a new album coming out.
Yes, yes. This is the third record in this little collaborative space that I've been blessed to build with a friend of mine who goes by Steel Tip Dove. He's a producer from Brooklyn, um, a very well-known underground hip hop producer from the last, I want to say, 20 years or so. He's been doing a lot of dope work with a lot of some of the more groundbreaking artists in the like alternative rap, art rap, hip hop, indie rap space. There's a lot of different hyphenates that could go on. I don't know. So many different artists have
Yeah.
different ways of approaching it. But I've been blessed to work with him. This is our third go round, and this record is called Shifa. It's Shifa. It's Urdu, which is a native language in Pakistan for the concept of healing or to heal, or in verbiage as if like to heal someone. Um, and it's a really special record to me. It's kind of crazy that it's even coming out, and it's weird how the timelines of making a record and putting a record out happen. That's such a big part of the story of this album, because it was finished in 2022. And we purposefully pretended that we did not make this album when it came to how it was presented to people online. Um, so at the time, I was working on Steel Tipped Bear's Claw 2. That record was called Phantasmagoria. Uh, I had been getting beats from Steel Tip Dove's Patreon page, which now is defunct, but at the time it was up and running, and he had this tier on there for 15 bucks that was like, hey, you could get a discount on studio time and a special folder of beats that you can just use for whatever projects you want. Just credit me in the production credits. And I was like, I'm gonna take all the advantage of this because this is awesome. He's a crazy producer who I'm a huge fan of, and I can just rap on anything. So I'm gonna rap on as much of this as possible. And so I had rapped on it for the first Steel Tipped Bear Claw record, and then I had rapped on some more of those songs and didn't put those songs out. I kind of refined those over time. I considered them demos. I messaged Steel Tip Dove and was like, hey, I would love the opportunity to workshop these demos in your studio. I'm paying the $15 on your Patreon. So if I could work out a way to Brooklyn, like, could I get that discount on studio time? And he messaged me back and was like, actually, yo, screw that entirely. Let's just do it like this. I will pay for your flight to Brooklyn. If you can get an Airbnb, you can just have free studio time with me for as long as you're able to be up here. Let's call it like 5 days. Um, and we'll just do whatever we can do in that time frame. And I was like, yeah. So, so he paid for my plane ticket. I flew out to Brooklyn. I got an Airbnb. Um, and I just kind of explored the city, got mad inspiration, spent the first day just kind of wandering about. I met up with my homegirl, Lady Valor, who was living in New Jersey at the time. She was coming to Brooklyn that weekend because there was a festival that she was playing. Excuse me. She messages me and is like, Kuna, do you want to DJ for me at this festival? I was like, fuck yeah. So I go and DJ with her at this festival. Um, Shout out to the Brooklyn Wildlife Center. And then I would spend every day after that at Steel Tip Dove's house. I would wake up at like 6 a.m. I would walk around the block, get some exercise. I would go to Dunkin' Donuts, get some coffee, and then I would hop on the J train, ride all the way to the other end of Brooklyn, walk a couple blocks, and then I'd be up in his space. I called it the Dove's Nest. I don't know if he had a name for it, but I called it the Dove's Nest. And so I would go up there and we would start by just like chit chatting about the morning, about hip hop stuff that's going on at the time and records that we were listening to, stuff that we had been working on with other people, whatever. And then I would write from like 11 till I want to say like 5, maybe 6 p.m. And I would just write and record. And we churned out all 10 songs in about 5 days. We listened back to him and he was like, dude, these are fucking solid. And I was like, thank you. And then we had to remember that, like, these aren't the songs that I came up here to record. I came up here to record these demos. And so at the end of it all, he's listening to the demos on the last day. And he's like, what do you mean demos? These sound finished. And I was like, what do you mean they sound finished? he was like, he was like, dude, I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, I don't think that you need to re-record these. I think that they sound complete as they are. If you want to do something, we can, but like it's the end of, the week and past this point, I'm going to start getting a little busier. So I don't really think that it's a thing that we need to do. It feels like it would be a little more of a burden than anything. And I was like, I mean, if you're telling me that I'm walking out of here with 2 albums, that's crazy to me. But I guess that's what's happening. And so he was like, actually, as a matter of fact, let's talk about how you want to release Steel Tipped Bear's Claw 2. I was like, I want to put it out on Beartooth Collective. And at the time, a homie of mine who was in the collective was running a label. So that label wanted to put it out digitally through like streaming.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm trying to put it out physically through my label. My homie wants to put it out digitally through his label. And Steel Tip Dove was like, this is a lot of hands. I'm not entirely comfortable with how many hands have to be in this pot to put this record out, but also like hopefully it will be of a benefit to have more people talking about it. I was like, I think the same thing. I think it's a little bit overhanded, but I think that like it could help get the word out to more eyes. And he was like, okay, so that's happening for this record. Then what we just recorded, instead of putting it out right away, let's sit on it for a while. I'll tweak on it when I can. And when it's time to be completed, we can put it out through the record label that I'm about to start because he was about to start a record label that he was running now. Shout out to Fused Arrow Records. And so I was like, that's comfortable with me. That would be a crazy blessing to have a record out on your label, yo. Like that would be awesome. But I'm not pressuring, the situation. If it doesn't play out that way, then it's fine. Just let me know. We'll talk about it, at a future date. And so 2 years passed. And last year I reached out to him sometime in late fall, I want to say, if I'm remembering correctly. It was just like, hey yo, uh been listening to these demos, pretty much nonstop for the last 2 years, loving what we did and appreciative of the time. Any plans on, like what's the update? Is there anything that's happened on them whatsoever? Or is it kind of just sitting in the water? And he was like, honestly, dog, I haven't had time to put towards the record because personal life has been happening. My job has been, I got a big boy job in my position now. So I've kind of been having more responsibility and the record label's doing really well. So I'm kind of got my hands tied. I was like, hey, if it's easy for you, I'll take the shit off your hands and I'll just deal with it myself and you don't have to worry about it. And he was like, yeah, sure, do whatever you want to do. So I got the stems back from him. I took them to my home studio in Savannah, Georgia, and I re recorded the record. I re recorded the songs top to bottom. I added, you know, the post production, mixed and mastered everything myself. Um, I think it sounds really good. I'm really proud of it. I was able to, I think, sonically bring together the full encompassing idea for this short little world to put people in for about 24 to 25 minutes. Um, that was just like an all encompassing view of this very healing week that I had in New York, where at the time I was just in need of such a break from my own reality. I had a lot of family stuff that was going on. I had some girl troubles that were going on, and I was like, man, I need a escape, and I've been blessed both through touring and shows and just opportunities through music to be able to go and do cool stuff right when I need to. Never like too late or too early. It's right on time. Um, and so I spent a lot of time healing in this man's living room and having really special experiences, and we were able to put it to record. Um, it's coming out March 20th. The online listening party is going to be February 20th. I think that's in 5 days or 4 days.
Mm.
Um, I have some collectible trading cards that are going to be coming on the way. I'm going to be making some one of one art piece trading cards. There'll be collector's items with like plastic packaging and all of that. Um, and I've also been making some digital art pieces that I'm thinking of putting into either a zine with the lyrics, or maybe I might put some on some t-shirts. I put up a couple polls online and I've gotten kind of even responses across the board for a little bit of everything. So we'll see what I'm able to pull across, but I'm excited, man. It's been a really long ride to get this record out and I'm excited for people to hear it.
I'm excited to hear it myself. I know I've got some stuff sitting in my inbox And
Yes, sir.
I usually purposely, when I do an interview with someone that's not super known, I I will only take like small bullet points enough that I can do an interview, and
Definitely.
then I learn from you. Because this I want to know who you are. I want to know, from your perspective, your story. So that's why I love doing this stuff. I love that you came my way, and
Yeah. Thank you.
I I look forward to not only this but everything that you got going on. And
I appreciate that.
I feel like this will be a fruitful experience. I do.
Thank you. I feel the same way.
So, CunaBear, I want to thank you. I want to give you my appreciation. And if there's anything that you want to say to everyone that's been along for your journey.
I appreciate everybody who's ever tuned in, no matter what level that appears, whether you've shown up for a show, whether you bought merch, whether you're subscribed to the website, whether you used to be subscribed to the Patreon, whether you used to be subscribed to the Bandcamp, whether you've bought anything or not, whether you've shared my stuff, liked my stuff, commented, or just, thought that in passing it sounded dope. I appreciate you. I appreciate my haters too. There's not a lot of them, but there's a couple. I appreciate y'all also. Shout out to the Beartooth Collective. Y'all keep me strong. Shout outs to my family. Shout outs to my moms and my pops and my girls. Um, yeah, man. Shifa is coming March 20th. I'm excited. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you for having me. Um, yeah, I hope y'all stay blessed as well. Stay safe out here. Fuck ICE, fuck 12, fuck Trump. We need to have safety and love in this world. Spread joy, spread healing, get to know your neighbors, build some community, open up a fridge, build a garden, yo. Get some earth skills up. We need people out here doing what we can to keep ourselves uplifted. That's all we need. Positivity, peace, and love.
1,000,000%. All right, man.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Been wonderful chatting with you.
You too.